Now we're heading into the second year with Greg Schiano at head coach for the Seattle Seahawks. He took over after Mike Holmgren retired, and expectations were high. I considered even releasing him. I don't think Greg Schiano will have a long tenure with the Seattle Seahawks, but we'll see how this year goes. Now they try to work it out with Tavares Jackson, but after a weak year from him, they decided to go back to finding a new quarterback. They signed Vince Young, traded for Derek Anderson, and we'll see how this turns out. It was a tight battle. Anderson's drives led to more touchdowns, whereas Young had a couple of turnovers. Young did throw for more yards in preseason and also has the ability to rush a little bit better. I decided to start Derek Anderson, but may consider having some sort of a dual quarterback situation. It's probably a terrible idea, but Greg Schiano is not known for his great coaching. As for running backs, there's Rashard Mendenhall, who was supposed to be their main starter. He was acquired back in 2008. He was a second-round pick. But they also had Peyton Hillis in the 5th round of 2008. And Peyton Hillis has been a Pro Bowl fullback almost every year he's been in the league. So like Mendenhall, I used for most of the yard situation. So he had 971 yards last year, 5 touchdowns. Peyton Hillis I've been using as kind of a role player running back where he has 390 yards last year, but 10 rushing touchdowns. And I use Peyton Hillis kind of interchangeably as a running back. He's been fairly reliable in that position. Now this year I kind of complicated things by signing TJ Duckett, who is also a bruising running back. So it might be Mendenhall, Duckett, and Hillis kind of rotating as running backs. We'll see if that works or not. As for receivers, why do I have a 59 overall C. Rodgers there? Well, Charles Rodgers was the second-round pick in the 2003 draft with the Detroit Lions. Did fairly well with them. Had a decent career. The Seahawks think he's going to be their top receiver, and that's why he's there. Danny Amendola obviously is their real true number 1 receiver, 70 overall. Amendola was a 6th-round pick in 2009, which was a very busy draft class for them, because that's also when they got Ryan Clady, who's their left tackle. But they did draft Brandon LaFell in the 3rd round. They do have Lagandu Nane, who kind of is more of a tight end almost. He's a 6'6" wide receiver. And then there is Childs, who I think was like probably a practice squad guy last year, and I just kept him on the team. They did draft Brandon Pettigrew last year in the 23rd overall pick in 2009. He is their big man tight end. They do also have Chris Baker and Sherry. On the offensive line, as you can see, Clady is probably their most prominent one with Samson Satelli, who was in 2009, 2nd-round pick. Steve Hutchinson has been with them for a long time. Chris Kimawatu, and I think it's Jacob Rogers. Probably can do a little bit better on the right side of the line there, but we'll be working on that maybe next season or so. Steve Hutchinson could retire any moment as well. That could throw another oddball there for their offense. As for their defense, we see they have a top guy in their pass rush and top guy in their defensive back. So Mario Williams was the 2006 first number 1 overall pick. They decided to go away from Vince Young, who they could have drafted, but they ended up signing him again a few years later. They did not go with Matt Leinart. They did not go with Jay Cutler. They instead went with Tavares Jackson in the 2nd round, first overall pick. And Jackson, you could argue, has maybe been more successful than Leinart, Cutler, and Vince Young. But here it is. They got rid of Jackson, and they now bring on Vince Young, so we'll see if that changes. But Williams has definitely proven to be the right selection for them. Alan Branch, Terrell Troop, Jeremy Mincy, even Paul Kruger, 2nd-round pick last year. They have some decent pass rushers there. Maybe could have a better defensive tackle to bring them to another tier. But right now, it's all manageable. As for their linebackers, we see, I think it's Desmond Bishop. Trying to remember exactly what his first name is. Let me double check that. I'll pull up when I got him. So Bishop is Desmond Bishop, 2004 or 2007, 4th-round pick, 24th overall selection. They do have Sean Thompson, who used to be a Brown in real life, but Sean Thompson's been pretty reliable here with Seattle. Koa Misi was a 1st-round pick, 13th overall this year, and he's got star depth, so we'll see if he brings that needed linebacking support. They do have Cortland Finnegan and McCauley. They signed Woolfolk, who was the Super Bowl champion Patriots cornerback, more of like that third cornerback, nickel cornerback, but he's may even move into the starting job depending on how McCauley does. But of course, they have Troy Polamalu, who was their first-round pick in 2003. He has been fantastic for them. I'm debating whether or not I keep him loyal to Seattle or if I decide to move him on if Seattle doesn't have much success. But then I think it's then they are Scott, who is, let me double check if I drafted him or I signed him. I think I signed Scott at some point. Taking on that 77 overall star dev safety role. So Seattle, they got one of the best pass rushers in the league with Mario Williams and one of the best safeties in Polamalu. They're just trying to fix the gaps there in between. And then for special teams, they have Jarrett as punter and Shane Graham as kicker. So let me know what you think of the Schiano Seattle Seahawks. What do you think they might do in this very tough NFC West?